it's kind of fitting that Hannah went first and I went last, just because I'm also going to use a quote from Game of Thrones. I'm not going to tell you who said this, or why they said it, or when they said it, but what they said was, don't choose me, I'm not wise. I thought I was, but I'm not. And this person was viewed as being a very smart guy. Okay, I'll ruin what sex he is. But anyways, I really took after this because honestly, I don't think I am. I might have some experiences, and maybe because I'm just older, I've lived a little bit longer, so maybe I might have some more experiences. And that's why it gives the illusion that I'm wise, right? Yes, so with that being said, I truly believe that God uses the weak to shame the strong. And I believe that a lot of people that came up and spoke today, I believe they have more courage than I do, because a lot of them aren't used to speaking or aren't, they took a lot of courage to come up here and do this. We have a lot of leaders that didn't think that they were going to be leaders in the last few months. So, and it's been quite a joy hearing everyone's testimonies and stories and little nuggets of wisdom. With that being said, please note that I am not wise. I just have maybe some experiences, and I hope that you take a lot of my advice with a grain of salt. Also knowing that a lot of the time, the advice that I give, I myself struggle with the most in actually doing, right? But first, let's be a little bit more like icebreakers, okay? So, a few nuggets of wisdom. Great places to park around here.
Oh my gosh.
There are none. You have an hour and a half free right here, and up on the sides, anywhere near the YMCA. The further you go up, the longer you have to walk, but the further you go up, more places to park. With that being said, if you want to find a spot early, it's best to get to know someone here and sleep over at their house. Not kidding, it's a great practical thing. When I found out you were living at Cause, I was going to ask you to sleep over many times, but I did not. Yes, I know you would have. Right? But this has been used a lot of times, and I think our last year we used that way too often, where they actually got mad at us. Secondly, so if you want, you can also go in front or behind the hotel to the left side of campus. You can also park for an hour and a half on the Pacific lanes. As Corey mentioned, you can also park next to Melting Pot and walk to Anthem. It's a great spot.
You can also park into Pomodoro Station and take the link.
That is very true. I was going to say that next, actually. No, just kidding. But you can also do that. The link is also free. You can use it anywhere in downtown Tacoma. It does not cost money.
Or just buy a parking pass and don't be poor.
I was also going to mention that if you want to, you can buy a parking pass. I actually highly recommend this, because if you're going to park on campus, you may have to pay $1 to $3 per class, right? If you average that up, and if you're actually here 4 days a week, it'll cost up to around $230-ish, which will mean on average you pay about $150 to $250, $275, depending on which parking pass you have. It might be worth it because you're not going to get a ticket, and it saves so much time when you know that you just drive to school and there's a parking spot waiting for you. I highly recommend it, but parking passes also go out very quickly. Let's see, next one. So this is just going to be all over the place, but keep going to things. I was going to give a shout out to Vanessa. She's a really good example about this. She started coming to school, literally went to everything. She went to CAM, FOSSA, PZU. She also hung on the CSI. CSI, for those that you don't know, is the Center for Student Involvement, any kind of crime scene investigation. But this is a place where a lot of people hang out, but no one knows where this is. So definitely try. Keep going to things. You will find your tribe. Afterwards, love them with all your heart. Great places to poop on campus.
What?
Yes, all right. So you're going to want to take out your notes, because I'm going to spill the tea on this one. There is a code for specific bathrooms that lock and that you must have a code to enter. The IT office people should know this code. It is 79135 star. Now, if you're in the CP building, go to the very bottom floor. On the IT room down there, there are 2 bathrooms that have a lock on them. Use that code to go in. Wonderful place to do your business. Another place that is also good, if you go to Joy Zero, the bottom floor building, pretty much right next to Sam Choi's place, If you go in, there's 2 bathrooms on the left side of it that also have a code that you might need to use. So these are on 2 opposite sides of the campus. I'm giving you a lot of gold. Okay? So also use the code 79135 *. You can use those 2 restrooms. Now there's also a shower in these restrooms. I would not use it, but it's a great place to poop.
What? Shower?
Also, you may feel a little unethical to do this, but the YMCA also has a locked 1 disability bathroom that has a shower and also a toilet. Sometimes I go there. Okay, another thing. Talk to your seniors for advice. There's a lot of people that don't know what's going on, what advice they should do, what classes they should take. Talk to your, it has to be your major seniors, okay? Make sure they're in your major. They will give you really good advice. Take it with a grain of salt because their experiences might be different than someone else. Let's see. Let your yes be yes and your no's be no. Oh my goodness. So many times they say no and then they come, which is great. Actually do that. But more often than not, it's always yes and then they end up being no. Try to schedule out your week and commit to the things that you do because you're going to be glad that you do it. Changing majors is not bad. I will actually also apply for CS and IT at the same time. I didn't get into CS, I got into IT. One of the best God-giving moments of my life. Free printing. The IT office has free printing up to $40. We also have color printing up to $10. The YMCA has free printing almost unlimited. Just don't abuse it and print out like 400 pages in one day, which has happened. Best places to study would be the IT office as well. You can actually go in and reserve a room, and it's really quick. You don't have to call. You don't have to go through any online system. There's 2 rooms in there. You can also use the Dugan room. They have on the 2nd floor. Generally on off times it's not busy. There's 3 rooms there that are really good. All right. And also what Corey said is great. Chatting, you can share like Netflix. Course Hero, definitely. You know, I wouldn't encourage it, but I have you. I have. Now, okay. With that being said, Felicia actually sent out a lot of questions for us to actually talk about. I thought we were going to go with that, but I guess not. So I'm going to read off some of the questions, and I'm just going to try to answer them. First question, where have you seen Jesus in your time at UWT, and how have you tried to follow him? What advice do you have to offer people who still have time at UWT as students? I did definitely think a lot of people touched on that, Matthew specifically, which is over there, which is, Sam more specifically first. He said, don't do nothing. Matthew says, do something, but don't overwork yourself. I think that's very true. The way that I believe I've seen Jesus in my time at UW-Tacoma is, I think the best analogy that I can give is, Cam was probably very miserable. What I mean by that is, but also a lot of fun. What I mean by this is like the camping trip that happened this last Saturday.
Oh my god.
Great example. It was horrible, absolutely awful. It was raining. Nico here was in a gallon of water. You know, we had bug bites all over the place. We repitched our tent in some guy's garage. I still got wet in that tent. I don't know how. People moved and slept in the cars. It was a miserable time.
The girls had a clean tent.
Oh yeah, someone also stepped in dog poop. A lot of things was very poor. However, it was so much fun. Right? It was so much fun that I feel a lot more closer to the people that went. A lot of things that we shared. Their willingness to hear my story and my devotional. And so I believe CAM is kind of similar to that. Being the founder and the leader for CAM for 2 years came with a lot of pain and responsibility that I wish I didn't have to go through. However, I believe that looking back on it, the very first message or announcement I gave to CAM was that at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that at my graduation, I'm going to want to have like 30 or 40 people on campus who want to come to my graduation, or like invite to come to my graduation, and they would want to come as well, and then it would be a really good time, and I would meet very long-lasting friendships, and I believe that is very true. And I would do it again if I decided, if I wanted to. If I had the chance, I would do it again. And that also goes with camping. We would be a bit more wise about it. We would not go to that area. So the way that I experienced Jesus in my time at UWT is actually through the trials and pain. a lot of times that I say growth in faith here, but I'm not entirely sure what that means. But anyways, through the trials and pain, I believe that what God has given all humans, or what I believe is that we're all given faith in some sort of way. We're all born with it. It's kind of more natural. However, how we actually practice that is different compared to the people. A lot of people say that they want to have more faith in God or more faith in these people, but then when they're given opportunities to practice that faith in God or practice that faith in people or practice that faith in themselves, they end up not doing it. So the more you practice using that, if you want more faith, God is going to give you more opportunities for faith, right? If you want to love people more, God is going to give you more opportunities to love that person more. These are going to be very hard to do. With that being said, it goes into my second question. How have you seen your faith grow personally and communally here at UW-T? What advice do you have for underclassmen that are growing in their faith in college? Some of you may have heard this, but it's one of my favorite parables is the story of the talents. Right? Quick example, run through what it is. Talents is like a measure of gold, and a master gives it to 3 servants. One servant they give 1, another servant they give 2, and the third servant 3. The master leaves for a very long time, and then pretty much tells the servants to do with it with what you will. He comes back after a long period of time, and asks the servants, what have you guys done? The first servant that had 5, said, I did much with it, I doubled it, I bring back 10 to the table. The second servant said, here's the 2 that you gave me, I bring back 4. But the last servant said, I was so worried about losing this talent that I buried it, but here it is, here's the 1 talent that you gave me originally. The master says, take this servant away from this last guy and give it to the person that has 10. And I struggled with this parable a lot because I was like, that's really not fair. Like, he was just worried, he was just trying to make sure he doesn't lose it, which is a very understandable and viable reason. But what I found out is that the parable actually talks more about the ways of the world, the realism of the world, and that is, whatever you don't use, you forfeit. Which means, for example, energy unused dies. If you tie your arm to your body and you never use it for like 2 years, it doesn't become an arm anymore. You can't move it anymore, right? So you have 1 less arm. Relationships not continually worked on will die and separate. Love, unused or unpracticed, will disappear. And faith, especially unused or unpracticed, will go away, right? Or dissipate very slowly to a point where it seems non-existent. With that being said, use what you have, no matter how little or none that you might think you have. Because the more you practice, and the more you use the talents, whether it be 1, 2, or 5 that are given to you, you will grow to have 5 additional that you thought you never had. 10, 20, and it will grow exponentially. Number 3, where has God challenged you and met with you in your time at UW-Tacoma? How are underclassmen to pay attention to what God is doing in their life while they are students at UW-Tacoma? There are 4 questions, by the way, so we're almost done. I believe the way that God has challenged me is the story that I shared in my devotional. It's a story about the Good Samaritan. I believe that in my time here, there were a lot of people that come to me and ask me, I'm so worried about my future. And there's a great preacher that I love to hear. His answer to that is, honest to God, Jesus died so that you can have a future. I'm so worried about the anxiety and like if I'll measure up. And the preacher says, whenever you doubt yourself, look to the cross. These are the things that I tell myself on a daily basis because of how the world is filled with comparison, social media, hate, and not enough love. Yes. So with the Good Samaritan, what I mean by that is this. The story goes where one person was down on his luck, he was pretty much beaten, and he's like a bum-looking guy on the side of the road. There is one person that walks by him, which is like a priest. He ignores him and walks away. Another person walks by him, another man of character or authority, walks right beside him. And I originally thought that this story was about, helping homeless people, but I believe it's not. I believe that no matter what, there are people there's nothing wrong for asking for help. A lot of people do it. But I think what makes a community so great, and I think what makes this community so great, is there are certain people who go above and beyond that and become the third person, which is the Good Samaritan. Because this person also has a lot of stuff that's going on. Samaria was a group of people that were hated upon. People would go around the country of Samaria instead of go through it because they didn't want to bother with the people that lived in it. That's how badly they were hated. And yet this man specifically decided to not care so much about his own problems and help the person that's struggling so much. What he did is he picked that person up, took him to a hotel, paid for a stay, and then said how long would it cost for him to heal, and he gave him exactly the amount that the hotel person asked for, and so that he could heal and get back to his feet. The reason why I say this is because God's first commandment was to love him with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. The second thing that he said was to also love your neighbor as yourself. It's great that we're all coming together, and part of our vision is to say, come as you are, but there's also a part of it that we really need to kind of rise above the community, where if we're all broken, but despite the brokenness, you can still be a person who still treats the other person as yourself or as myself. I'm not going to give you a little bit more blunt with this. I'm very selfish. I struggle with this, and I try not to be selfish. I try to take encouragement with this Good Samaritan. So I believe that how can underclassmen pay attention to what God is doing in their life while they are students at UWT is to serve other people. Lastly, what have been significant spiritual moments you've had while being at UWT, and how did they affect you? What encouragement do you have for underclassmen as they think about their spirituality? This might be a little bit simple, but simply put, be authentic. What I mean by this is, if you live out your life in a way where you're communing and living with God in your daily life, the things that, as I said, what have been significant spiritual moments? If you're in tune and living with God, you will have constant spiritual moments. Constant. Because you will be serving out and loving others. You will be sharing your faith, as everyone has mentioned here. You will be getting closer to God. You will grow in community. You will see God in so many different areas that it's almost irrefutable to think, at least in my personal view, that God is not real. Right? So with that being said, a good example of this was all right, I'm going to use Dwayne. I'm sorry. Hey, Dwayne. So he's our faculty advisor for people that don't know. He asked me if there was anything that I could show during our small group today. And at first, I was like, oh man, the stress of it. But as I kind of thought about it, I realized that there are always kind of small videos or stuff that I've tucked away. I would have done the devotional that we did as a camping trip, but since most of us were already attended the camping trip, we're already going to be at the men's group. I decided not to share it. But what I mean by is that if you're authentic, when things come your way, you will have things ready in your arsenal to meet that head. You might not do it perfectly, but because you live a life in that way, you will be able to handle a lot of the issues that come your way. That is all the 4 questions, and I think that's it, but I do want to leave questions that someone might have while it's here. Does everything make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
What is your biggest advice for the leadership next year at camp?
The biggest advice for leadership next year at camp. No matter how difficult or how angry or how frustrated you may be, share everything honestly and openly with God in prayer. There are a lot of times, I think, when I was like, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to have food there? How are all these things going to happen? And I really prayed, and I irrefutably, I got to say, every prayer that I have for camp specifically has come to fruition within the 2 years we've done it. Okay, I thought you were raising your hand. Of course, there's a lot of other nuggets too, but that's the only thing I can think of on the spot. Yes, Nico.
What is one struggle you and the leaders have overcome at SHAM in the 2 years that you
That okay, I'm gonna try to just focus on myself. Okay. Because I think if I try to go extend to other leaders, it might become kind of a bit more of an issue in sharing. My greatest struggle
is not the greatest?
oh, just any struggle. I want to try to choose something that might be applicable to you guys. Let's see. Got it. Ask me again in 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think there are still a lot of struggles that I don't know if there's an answer or not. Favorite memory? Oh, I have a favorite memory of every single person that's in here. For you, for example, is when I was like, you're definitely Korean. That person that showed me. So the story with Grace was that she was right here, Vanessa invited her, and I said, oh, you're definitely Korean. And she was, what? So shy. But I would say in an overall general sense, is seeing who we were back then and then seeing the people that we are now. Right? Because I said before, God uses the weak to shame the strong. There are a lot of people here that I think are growing so exponentially that I really feel like is shaming myself. I believe the way that Isaac and Dalen and Hannah Moore's not here, how they lead the coordination of it is so much better than I ever could. And they shame me. Anything else?